Hi everyone, my name is Jessie Long. I'm a barn committee member here at the Southeastern Youth Fair Rabbit and Chicken Barn. Today we're going to do a brief introduction on bug checking or checking for parasites on your bird. When you come to check-in day at the Southeastern Youth Fair, you'll notice one of the first steps we do as you enter the door is to check your bird for bugs. This is essential to ensure that your bird does not have any lice or mites prior to entering our fair. They are extremely contagious to other birds, and if we find them on your bird the day of check-in, we will unfortunately have to turn your bird away. Now that doesn't mean you can't compete in our barn contest. It just means that the project you've worked on for months will not be able to enter into the barn and be shown and judged. So today I'm going to give a brief overview of how you check your bird for bugs and some preventative measures that you can take to ensure that your bird does not have lice or mites prior to entering our fair. So the first thing that I like to check for is chicken lice. They're really common here in Florida because we don't get a lot of cold freezes. Because we have warmer weather, these lice and mites can come in our shavings and bedding very commonly. So it's important to check your birds, I would say weekly, for these parasites. The first place I like to look is behind their hackles, which are these neck feathers that run behind their head. I like to lift them up with one finger and gently blow down into the underfluff. Now, if they're chicken lice, you'll see them running. They almost look like a flea that you would see on a dog, except instead of being black, they're a clearish yellow color. So I like to check behind the hackles, and I like to check their saddle feathers as well, which are these feathers that run on either side of the chicken's tail. So I lift these the same way and blow into that underfluff. You're going to see them down at the base of the skin around the shafts of the feathers. This is where the blood supply is, and that's why the lice like to gather there. The other place we most commonly see them is surrounding the bird's vent. So you're going to want to take this fluff surrounding the vent and separate it with your fingers. I blow gently because usually this will encourage the lice to move if they are present. So those are the three main hot spots we like for you to check on your bird. The next thing we're going to look for is feather mites. Feather mites most typically like to collect around the shaft of the wing feathers. These mites are going to appear like dust or dirt buildup around the feather shaft. And remember, the shaft is that long, hard part running through the center of the feather. Again, the feather's blood supply. These will look like dirt clumped around either side of the shaft, and those are what we call feather mites. Most typically they're found on the wings, but they can also collect around the shafts of the tail feathers, so make sure you're checking for both. The last thing I like to check for is stick-tight fleas. These are a black flea. They look very similar to a dog or cat flea, but they like to embed around the chicken's wattles and comb. So I like to make sure I separate these wattles underneath and look for any small black fleas that will be embedded. Same thing on the comb. And obviously on this bird there are none, but if you were to see those lice, mites, or stick-tight fleas, there's a couple of preventative measures you could take. I also want to mention scaly leg mites. These leg mites will embed themselves underneath the scales of the leg. This most often causes the scales to lift. These are the most difficult mites to get rid of, but we do have a few preventative things that we can show you that might help prevent these mites. Again, if you present to check-in with any of these present on your bird will be turned away at the start of the show, which always breaks my heart to do. So I really encourage you check your birds weekly and take the preventative measures we're going to recommend to ensure this doesn't happen to you. So the first thing I want to talk about is dusting. When I was an exhibitor, I would dust my pens and my birds, I would say at least every 2 weeks, so about twice a month. I would use 7 Dust, which is a insecticide that you buy for gardening. This is safe to use directly on the bird and in the pen itself. So I'm going to try to give you a quick example of how I do this. Some help opening that. Maybe. There we go. This dusting will help ensure that not only is your bird bug and mite free, but your pen is as well. So you can see when you open it up, there's a small hole, just like you would see on a seasoning cap. I used to like to take and dust this directly onto my bird's vent. So just sprinkling it in. And then sometimes I would take and work that down into the fluff with my fingers. You can also dust underneath the wings. So you'll hold the wing back, have someone shake a little bit of dust in there, rub that in, and you can do behind the hackle feathers. This is an external way to ensure that your bird does not have a lot of those external parasites like mites and fleas that we typically see. You can also use this same dust in your nest boxes and the dirt floors of your pens. Just sprinkle it in. I like to either with shavings, fluff it in with your hands, and with the dirt, make sure you're using a rake to work it in. That's one great way to ensure that your birds and your pens are being treated for bugs like mites and lice. Another thing you can do, if you check your bird and you see that, oh my gosh, they have chicken lice or mites, don't panic. There are things that you can do. Something we like to buy is Adam's Flea and Tick Spray. Now this is a fairly old bottle, so hopefully you can see it, but Adam's Flea and Tick Spray, you can also use Frontline. This is the same kind that you would buy for your dogs and your cats. It's an external use product that we'll use on the outside of the bird that will seep into their bloodstream and kill all of those mites and lice that may be living on your bird. So for this, you want to ensure you don't get any of it around the face of the bird, because if it comes in contact with their mouth or eyes, it could cause irritation and sickness. I used to spray mine right behind those hackle feathers, just one small spritz, and right around the vent area. You can use this as a preventative treatment. You can do this in the months leading up to the show to ensure your birds don't have lice or mites, or you can use it as a treatment if you do find them on your bird. So that's a great way to make sure that those mites and lice are killed off of your animal. If you see those scaly leg mites, they are one of the more difficult mites to get rid of. Something that I always used and recommend was Vicks Vapo Rub. It's got a strong menthol scent and a heavy oil base that discourages and kills those mites. So you can take this, I'm not gonna do it today because I feel like it's pretty self-explanatory, but you would get a large glob of this salve and lather your bird's legs with it, making sure to work it in really well so that it's saturating underneath those scales. You can also use this product, Veterex. You can purchase it at your local feed stores like Tractor Supply or Spar. And you can also use this to lather the legs. Again, anything with an oil base is going to suffocate those leg mites and kill them off and or prevent them. I also really like to use Veterex to shine the birds' combs. So you can rub this into their combs and their wattles. Again, it's got that heavy menthol scent and oil base, so it's gonna deter mites and lice from collecting around your bird's head and wattles. So that's a quick talk on how we check for mites and some of the preventative measures you can take for ensuring that your bird has a safe and healthy check-in here at our Southeastern Youth Fair. Thank you.